In this presentation, we will be analyzing a paper written by Ian Golden, a professor from Oxford University, called Why is Productivity Slowing Down?
According to the case study, it can be observed that the main driver for productivity slowdown is decreases in TFP, which is caused by two main factors, namely, capital deepening and the types of industry. Slowdown in capital deepening can be seen to possess a stronger link with TFP. The rise in intangible capital offshoring investments performed and recorded abroad, weakening competition from artificial barriers like patents. Copyrights can be observed to have a stronger connection in incentivizing investments, which leads to a productivity slowdown. The evidence in the case study states the dominant contributing factor non-ICT physical capital poses a contribution of between 8% to 33% of the slowdown in capital deepening. This slowdown was also caused by the financial crisis, which increased the restraints on circulation of credit, decreasing financing of intangibles. This theme will be explored further in the video.
In contrast, the link between DFP and labor productivity holds a strong relationship compared to capital deepening, with manufacturing industries being the largest perpetrator of the decline in productivity. Technological revolution via advancements in equipment brings the shift of production towards capital-intensive industries. Workers in manufacturing need time to readjust and learn skills adapted to the use of new capital, thus causing a lag in productivity. Service industries contributed to the slow of labor productivity growth by the limitations of its capacity to expand as they are subjected to in-person services. However, the data given is insufficient in linking the two entities.
We can also attribute the productivity slowdown to reductions in investment. As we found in lectures, investment can be directly correlated to capital and productivity. In order to maximize the level of productivity and returns from capital, firms should invest until the marginal productivity of capital is equal to the rent on that capital MPK equals R. We also explored the concept of diminishing returns, in which we found that firms tend to invest at the maximum point of the MPK curve. However, we may have firms investing below that point. There are many reasons as to why this may occur. It can be attributed to either structural changes or cyclical changes. Cyclical change refers to post-crisis periods in which aggregate demand is significantly reduced and governments and firms are more financially constrained. These constraints inevitably reduce the amount of money available to invest in capital. Structural changes include the shift of investment to intangible capital rather than tangible. Intangible capital refers to investments in R&D, patents, copyrights, and goodwill. As investment moves toward intangible capital, we may get lower productivity figures as it is difficult to measure their output in quantitative terms, and it is often underestimated.
Research and development. First, let's start with a pun. Why did the productivity expert go on vacation? To get some R&R resources and results. But we're no longer talking about R&R, but rather R&D. The rise of private sector R&D investment has increased productivity, especially through the monopoly structure of firms. However, with increased antitrust and anti-competition laws, the strength of such monopolies to increase productivity is limited. The inverted U-shaped relationship between innovation and competition suggests that as competition increases, innovation initially increases, but it may discourage firms from investing in innovation over time. This is because they may focus on cost-cutting and incremental improvements to existing products instead of taking risks to bring on new ideas. The marginal productivity of R&D is declining, so increasing demand leads to lower average research productivity. This links to the solo economic growth model, where a sustained rise in capital investment only increases the growth rate temporarily, because the marginal product of additional units of capital may decline. Therefore, recent R&D investments may have slowed in productivity due to increased competition and decreased monopolies.
Over the years, markets have gone through various economic cycles. From booms and recessions, world wars, financial crises, and bubbles, the economy and market structure is forever changing. The decrease in business dynamism in recent years could lead to existing firms having greater monopoly power in their respective industries, as they face less competition. This trend is more pronounced in the US, where studies have found a decline in employment by young firms, making it difficult for new firms to establish themselves and gain market power. Concentration has also increased, particularly in broad and service markets. While some argue that concentration may be good for productivity, others suggest that successful firms are erecting barriers to entry and extracting rents. There is also a productivity difference between firms within highly specialized industries, with a divergence between top productivity firms and the rest, especially in services and ICT/data services. During economic downturns, the least productive firms should be removed from the market, increasing aggregate productivity. However, this was not the case during the financial crisis, and large and old firms are more likely to become zombie firms, which are unable to generate enough income to pay interest expenses. Several factors have contributed to the recent slowdown in productivity, including issues in business dynamism, misallocation of resources, and the prevalence of zombie firms. However, it is difficult to pinpoint which factor has had the largest impact.
In this study, it can be seen that the change in output per person can be further broken down into the equation in Figure 1, as derived from the formula from combining the Solow and Romer model. The main contributors of the effects on global trade were the allocative efficiencies. Hence they believe that slowdowns were caused by the unlikelihood of trade integrations taking place as allocation of resources is coming to an end, and there is a decline in global trade which slows down the allocation. There is a proposed reason for the slowdown in global trade in this study, which is the financial crisis that led to lower consumer demand. Moreover, our group identified another possible reason, which is the rising trend in globalization.
It is reasonable to conclude that productivity has been slowing over the years, due to a range of different factors. The most significant reason is due to reductions in investment and capital, with a shift of investment to intangible capital rather than tangible capital. Subsequently, changes in the composition of R&D, issues with business dynamism, and the prevalence of zombie firms are additional reasons for a slowdown in productivity. The total slowdown of productivity and its respective breakdowns are represented in the table. However, growth accounting measures such as TFP rely on unrealistic assumptions, such as all inputs are perfectly substitutable, but in reality, not all inputs are substitutable due to differences in the quality of labor, capital, and technology. Also, we assume that production is characterized by constant returns to scale, but in reality, due to the existence of diminishing marginal returns, this can affect the efficiency of inputs and their contribution to output. This therefore undermines the significance of the argument that productivity has been slowing down. A point to note is that GDP isn't the most appropriate measure of human well-being, as productivity measures how much output is generated per unit of labor or capital. When productivity is high, more goods and services are produced with fewer resources, which can lead to higher economic growth and GDP. But these gains in GDP are disproportionately impacting certain classes of people within the population. Increased productivity in industries that heavily rely on automation and technology could lead to job losses and income inequality. So whilst productivity is an important measure of economic performance, it is not the sole indicator of human well-being.